Hi, Laura. And I agree with you, Laura. We'll get into that in just a minute. So can you hear us okay and see us okay, Laura? Reason I'm asking is because we had a little accident just before we got started. Seems to be a bit of a fuzzy thing. I think my camera lens might be dirty. But I cleaned it a second ago. Get a bit of a glow. Just okay, don't worry about the flashing. That's just me cleaning the lens. I think that's the lighting more than anything else. Sorry, people. We're just trying to get ourselves here. I broke something. It fell out of the cupboard on me just before we went on to air, so we had glass everywhere and had to clean that up. So, I think we're cleaned up now. Okay, thanks, Laura. Yeah, I see that, Laura. I don't know what that is.
What?
Well, there's a little aura of light, and I just cleaned the lens off. I think it's the reflection off of the light over here. I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Virginia. Well, Walter's going to try the lens again with some lens cleaner here, so you're going to get a little flippy flop, so don't worry, it's just Walter cleaning.
Is that better?
I don't know, it hasn't caught up yet. It might be. Yeah, I think that's better. Yeah, that's a little better. Everybody agree? Hi, Kathy. Yeah, I think that cleaned it up. Okay, so we're just trying to get ourselves oriented here. Yeah, there must have been a little schmucks on it. Looks like there still could be a little, but it's not enough to worry about. So, yeah, need to give that a better thorough cleaning. Okay, so Walter's just getting our...
You might have to take a slurp out of that because it might be kind of full.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So we are having strawberry daiquiris made from, well, fresh strawberries. Well, they are, but they're not homegrown.
California strawberry.
Yeah, California ones, I guess. So,
I
are
think
you
they're
in?
California.
Yeah,
Might be Mexico.
Mexican strawberries. There's no
Maybe.
little sombrero on it.
I don't know. It's hard to tell where they come from, and I didn't look at the package.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like you're sitting on me. Maybe not.
Why does it feel like there's an elephant on you?
Oh, you said it, not me. So, yeah, everybody heard that. Okay, what are you doing now?
I'm
All eyes are on Walter's.
I'm increasing the height of my stool.
Oh, are you pushing in your stool?
No.
You're taller than me now. There, that's better. Might be better if you go to lower.
I got my haircut this week.
I was going to say, did you think you messed it up or what?
Yeah.
So, anyways, so we got Laura here, Kathy's here, Virginia's here. There's some lurkers. They're not letting us know who they are. Always wonder who the lurkers are out there. They seem to be very, very shy about letting themselves be revealed. We won't bite unless you want us to. So, okay, so let's get on with the show. So, let's talk about my mother. Just pissed me off 5 minutes ago. I called her up, as I usually do. Actually, I have stopped calling her during the week much. I call her maybe once a week now because she doesn't pick up the phone, as I've told you before. And I figured today was going to be the same. We go over once a week to visit her, but she just won't pick up the bloody phone. It's too much effort. Well, she picked it up on the third ring today. She must have been practically sitting on it. I don't know. First thing comes out of her mouth is, well, I thought you were dead. Haven't heard from you in a long time. We were there 4 days ago, for one thing. I says, well, maybe, Mother, if you answered your phone once in a while, how do you want me to communicate with you? By telepathy? Oh, well, I don't know. So the next thing I say to her is, so how are you feeling? Now, back a week or so ago, I told you she had a low-grade temperature. That only lasted one day. She was fine, blah, blah, blah. The nursing staff don't know what it was, but they say it's just one of those things. And, it could have been just one of those things. Anyway, she was fine. So she says, well, no, I'm not feeling that. I wasn't feeling that good earlier or something. And I said, what do you mean earlier? We were over there 4 days ago. You were fine. So what? What's the matter? Well, I don't know. I said, headachy, aches and pains, feeling tired. She says, well, I'm not really sure. Well, Mother, if you're not really sure, then how can I, assess the
Sounds like
seriousness
she's
of it?
depressed again.
Yeah, well, I think she's been going through that a lot lately.
Yeah.
Maybe I should talk to them about her medication for that.
Yeah, but
But then how much...
I mean, how much medication can you give you if you're depressed because you're not doing anything? And
Well, 'tis the season, right? We're suffering in Canada from light deprivation, as we always do.
yeah, because anytime we go over there on a Wednesday, she's just sitting in her wheelchair or laying in bed staring into space, and half the time she can't figure out how to use her TV set.
Oh, yeah, we get over it. Well, anyways, before I jump ahead in that. So I said to her, so Mother, how do you expect me to communicate with you? By telepathy? Whatever. And the sickness stuff. And I said to her, well, are you tired? Well, yeah, I'm not. That's what it is. And I said, well, you don't do anything. If all you do is sit around, you're going to feel tired. That's what happens. And it's not like they don't have activities and things to keep them all amused every day. Every month they put out a chart of what they're doing day by day for the month. And I go over it with my mother. I highlight things that I think maybe she should try, just to stimulate her. Well, no, that's just not her cup of tea. Or, oh, I don't know about
Just
that.
realized I forgot to get
What?
my iPad out.
Oh. All this kind of excuses. So really, and lately we've been going over there, and the television set has been stuck on the opening screen. Like she has, for those of you in Canada, you know what I'm talking about. Bell is our provider that we use, and it's 5 TV. And so she's sitting there staring at the screen that says 5. All she has to do is push the button, and it'll go to the channel guide. And I have shown her this 1,000 times. And my mother's not a stupid woman, but even to do that is effort. So I don't even know why we're bother paying for television every month for her. Well, she's got to have something. I'm not going to stop that.
Yeah, because we go over there and put the channel on for her. And the staff, I guess, do it every once in a while if she asks.
Yeah, if she asks. But she just likes to stare. I don't know. Maybe I've asked them to, I said last week, I've asked them to test her for dementia. And I don't know if they've done that or not because I didn't follow up on it. I don't know. It's a quandary. It's a mystery. Hi, Cindy. But anyways, so that's the story of my mother. And I asked her too. I said, so have you been talking to my sister? Because my sister usually goes over on Mondays. My sister doesn't usually call her, but she usually goes over on Mondays. Oh, no, she hasn't heard anything or seen my sister in a long time. Well, I don't know if that's true or not, and I doubt that that's true because my sister's pretty faithful about doing that. And heaven forbid ask her if my brother is called because he lives in Vancouver, in Abbotsford, on the other side of Canada, 3,000 or 5,000 kilometers away from us, and he used to call every other week. But if my mother's not picking up the phone and answering, what do you do? I don't know. So it just always gets me cheery. And then I reached into the cupboard for some straws for our drinks, and the straws got caught on something else, and we had glass all over the place. So, am I in a cheery mood? Well, I will be better after this sinks in. So what are people saying here? Laura says, common lurkers, join us. I was one. Oh, B&D's here. Hi, B&D. Laura says that. Well, I don't know. Drove us bonkers when my grandmother did that. She sounds like she could be your mother's twin sister. Yeah. Oh, you mean your grandmother? Yeah. Hi, Laura. I haven't seen you in a while. And Andy. Hi, Andy. So anyways, yeah, that's the state of the union with my mother. So same old. Whatever. So what else has been up? Well, I had a class this morning. Actually, it was supposed to go, I thought it was, well, they had it scheduled originally from 10 to 2. But this place where we go for our classes, you never know whether the dates or the times are going to be the way they've posted them. And found out today it was only intended to go from 10 till about 12:30. And it's the one that we're doing this thing called a giant dahlia, which is sort of a medallion with all these layers. There's curves in it. It's a fairly elaborate design, and it's meant to be either a tablecloth or it can be a Christmas tree skirt, or you can make it into a full-blown quilt as well, or a wall hanging. So lots of possibilities, but you've got about 10 different templates that you use on like 10 different fabrics, and you have to cut these pieces all out. So all we did with today's class was she showed us how to cut things out, and our homework was to have everything cut out and put on our design wall, which is basically a cheap plastic vinyl tablecloth from the dollar store, but it has felt on the back, and all your pieces will stick to it. And the idea is we'll lay it all out on that, roll it up, bring it in next Sunday, unroll it, hang it somewhere, because this quilt store is not very big. And we'll work from that. I guess we get started on the sewing. So anyways, I think it's going to be kind of interesting. I think I'll learn quite a bit. I've never used templates before. And so today was my first, try at that. So, and it seemed to go over pretty good. And I'm taking this class for two reasons. One, this is something a little different than, your usual type of quilt. And I've heard really good things about the teacher. Her name is Cleo, just like the name of our little kitty when we had her. Except this Cleo spells with a K. We spell Cleo with a C. And she's supposed to be an excellent teacher. Well, I was suitably impressed today with her organizational skills and things. And to be quite honest, that's not hard, because most of the classes I take over at the quilt shop, they're not quite as organized as, well, I'm sorry, I'm picky. I'm a type of person that's very organized. So
I don't find they're as organized as they should be either. So,
and
I tend not to be as organized as he is,
to the point of being kind of anal retentive. But anyways, so she was pretty good, and yeah, I think it'll be an interesting project. Something out of my comfort zone, and I like to take things out of my comfort zone. So what are people saying?
Sorry it took me a while to get in because I changed my Google password yesterday, so I had to redo all.
Why did you change your
Oh, don't ask.
Okay, I won't. Laura says, are you going to Scrap Fest with Class Active May? I'm actually going this year. No, I'm not. And I went last year when they had the first one they had. What's that?
To where'd she say?
Not Scrap Fest. She means Class Axe crop thing. Yeah. I went to the very first one they had, and I had a good time and everything like that. It was fine. But my heart isn't in it anymore. My heart's in quilting. And we're going on a retreat at the 1st of March with the quilting store that we go to. And that's a 4-day thing. And I'm just not into the paper crafting like I used to be. I keep my foot in the door by doing my art journaling classes and stuff like that. But to be honest, it's just not the thrill I get anymore. I actually, when I went last time, I actually debated whether just to take my sewing machine and work on a quilt while I was there. And I could have. But I thought, well, it is a different kind of crafting that we're doing. Shouldn't do that. But that's, it's nothing against Carol or anything like that, or the other people that go. Most of my ladies in my art journaling class are going. When I went to the one last year too, a lot of them went. We all sat together and kind of a thing. And we kind of promoted art journaling, because a lot of the people that go to Carol's Crop are scrapbookers or card makers. And they don't, let them experience outside of the box thinking, like a lot of the things we do in mixed media, as you know, Laura, that's Laura N, they're transferable to, other paper crafts as well. So that's why I'm not going, kind of a thing. Yeah, Laura says her heart's still in card making as well. But I had a good time. It was fun. There were prizes. Carol set up a little mini store. They had food. Yeah, it was a good time. Um, the only thing was, nobody tempted it, but we probably could have. They were in the Legion. The Legion's got a bar. I just kept saying to it, why don't I go over and have a beer? And I know there were some in there that wanted to do that, but everybody was a little bit, we don't drink at crops. I think it would be even more fun if you did. And because I think you'd get real creative real quick until you sobered up and saw what you made and you went, what was I thinking then? But in the meantime, you'd have a good time. So, yep, long explanation, but I'm not going. So, speaking of thinking outside of your box, Walter's going to be doing something outside of the box for
Well,
him.
there's a guy that we know that got into sewing last year in a big way, but he's mostly into garment making and stuff like that.
Well, it started off with, he said once something about, I don't know how we got into the conversation.
Remember we were at Halloween and he was trying to figure out how to make a costume or something.
Oh, right. And then, but he didn't have a sewing machine or anything, but he said he always wanted to try that kind of sewing. And I said to him, go to Ultimate Sewing. Tell them I sent you. Surely it'll give you a good price on a machine that's appropriate for you and the whole bit. So he did, and he bought. And now he's going to be teaching a class. And Walter.
Yeah, and so I decided I've had a couple of shirt patterns here, but getting motivated to do it is another thing. So he's teaching this class, and I said, well, the owner of the store said that this guy was teaching the class and asked me if I wanted. There was still one spot available yesterday, and asked if I wanted to take it, and I said, okay, sure, I'll take it. We'll see.
So I'm not, because I'm sort of interested, but I know that I would be all thumbs and get frustrated very fast with it, because I'm not that kind of sewer. And I've heard from people who make garments, they think that making quilts is difficult. They think making garments is easier. And those of us that don't do garments but do quilting, we think the exact opposite. We think quilting is easy and that garment making would be more precise. And apparently, from what the guy that's teaching this class has told us, he says actually garment sewing is much more forgiving than sewing for quilts because you have to be so precise with your seams. So I don't know. I guess it's whatever you're into. So he's always wanted to do more garment making anyways. He used to make costumes for us at Halloween and stuff with, bare minimum of pattern, if no pattern at all.
No pattern.
No pattern. Made me a lovely skirt with empire waist and cap sleeves once. That's a story for another time.
I mean, it can be forgiving if I can make a dress out of a copying a sweatshirt. Then,
Yeah, true.
Then doing a quilt. So
Of course,
I mean, it didn't come out that great.
is it really hard to take a sack and cut a hole in it and like, put a belt on it and call it high fashion? I mean, I don't know, Project Runway, here we come. So now that, he makes bags, so now he can make coordinating outfits to go with the bags. I have done shoes, not made them, but altered them. That we could just do a whole couture collection. W&S couture, or S&W. Actually, that would sound better. S&W fashion. Yeah. But anyways, so you had an embroidery class too yesterday, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
So what was the...
I embroidered the T-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't.
Oh, where is it? Go get it.
I thought I had it centered, but it's a little off. But it's not that much off.
If you don't point that out to people, usually they won't find it, except you will. But, hi, Carol. But actually, there was one lady, poor lady in this class he took yesterday. Like, they're doing machine embroidery, and the machines are all computerized. And you got to know a little bit about basic computer technology.
We were talking about that last week. Right?
Yeah, okay. Well, this lady definitely doesn't know any computer
I
technology.
did a simple design. It was only one color, so.
Yeah, do you get the joke? It says, I do what I want. Was it? I do what I want. No, yeah.
I do what I want.
And the cat knocking the
Yeah.
coffee cup off, yeah. Yeah. Any of you that have cats know exactly what that means. So it turned out pretty good. Laura says she loves it. Laugh out loud. Yeah. He had another design too that he was thinking of doing, which was a very colorful bear. Actually, it was
Polar bear.
polar bear. It was
I think, yeah.
it was very nice, but I thought that was like more fun. If you're going to put something on a T-shirt, you might as well have something that's fun.
Plus, I didn't want a really complicated pattern because then you're sitting there forever having it stitch
Oh yes,
out, and you're in the middle of a class. So
yeah. Bonnie says, "I like it, Walter. Love simple and fun." Now, anybody know who this Melon person is?
FE.
That's just showing up with the FE. Is this somebody who is a what do they call them? Or is this a real person? You have Larsa spammers, yeah. Troll. That's the word I'm looking for. Walter, are you planning to do a T-shirt with a maple leaf?
I could. I don't know. Haven't decided.
EFEFF. A man has fallen to the river, Lego City. Huh? Troll, I bet. No,
How do you get
Laura
rid-
says a spammer.
How do you get
I
rid
think
of
I can get rid of them like this. Put user in timeout. Okay. I think I got rid of that person. Yeah, this melon burr or something. Actually, we haven't really had any of that. That's our first.
Yeah.
And I'm
Well,
not
maybe
because
that has,
Quinto.
has something to do with your private versus school.
Oh,
thing
maybe.
that
Well, I've got
they
another.
picked up on.
I got another one to put in timeout as well. Whoever this Quinta do Hugh Q is, a man has fallen to the river in Lego City. I don't know if that person's supposed to be funny or what, but whatever. Okay. Yeah. Well, I was trying to figure out how to do the blocking. It doesn't actually tell it block, but it says give them a timeout, and I'm not sure what that means. But I think that is a whatever. I don't know. Okay. All right. So we're moving on here. That's the first. Well, you become popular when you have trolls. Really? Might have to now assign someone as moderator or something, however that works. Okay. So anything else that we had happen this week? Can't think of anything. Geez, I'm bad as my mother now. Cripes. Okay. So update on when Laura.
Timeout means they can't post for 5 minutes.
Oh, is that what that means? Okay. Well,
We'll see if they come back.
Well, if they come back, I'll try something else. Build the helicopter and off to rescue. Prepare the lifeline, lower the stretcher, make the rescue. New emergency collection from Lego. Okay. Hide user on this channel. Report. Remove. Message just deleted. I don't know if that just got. Nope, that didn't work. Hide user on this channel. Yeah, I know, but Laura, I don't have a block. When you hit on their name, I don't get block, and I'm not sure. I've hidden them, but I'm not really sure.
There's one that says block here.
Where'd you get that though?
I don't know. Hit yours on one your thing. Where are you? On hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I get.
Oh, okay.
How'd you get block?
I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm just watching. I don't know.
Well, I should be able to block. Well, Bonnie says I just blocked them on my page. Well, I think that means, Bonnie, that you blocked them from there too, I think. So thanks. 3 dots on the right.
I got this Quentin guy coming up.
Oh.
on one.
Well, he's not coming up on mine now. Oh, yes, there he is. Okay. 3 dots. Where are the 3 dots? I don't have 3 dots.
Unless they're thinking of looking at it on their computer.
Maybe.
Yes, you have
We're
the
on
3 dots.
iPad, but Okay.
Remove.
Well, I did that before. That just does the message. Why can't I? That Carol reported them too, Bonnie. On the right of your name. On my name? No.
Right, but that's that thing.
That's just for posting. Okay.
You're gonna have to figure out how to do that.
Oh, Carol says hide user on this channel will work. Okay, well I hid that, but it just said it deleted his message. But maybe that right of comments. I don't have anything like that on mine. Okay, because we're on iPad. You see, this is what we're on. If you're on a computer, I know how to do it on a computer. When you move your mouse over the name, we don't have a mouse, dear. You click them on the block. When you move your mouse over the name, you can get 3 dots. Click them and block is 1.
Well, there's like
No,
3 dots that I brought there.
well, yeah, but that you're not in. That's a totally different thing. Okay, well, I put in remove, so and B&D is probably okay. We'll just hope for the best on this, whoever the idiot is. You know, some people have so much time on their hands. Really? You know, he looks like he's advertising.
It looks like one of those Pokemon Go things.
Yeah, but he looks like well, that's his little symbol, but it looks like he's selling something, or that new emergency collection from Lego. Let me report him too. What's this? This is dumb. Okay, put that. Whatever. Okay. The 3 dots are at the right side of each person's chat line. Not on mine. I'm on an iPad. Here, look. I'll show you. This is what I see.
Yeah, no dots on the tablet.
Yeah, there's no dots on the tablet. And so when I press on their name, what happens is I get report, hide, timeout. Oh, Bootsy, sweetheart. Hi, Roy. They only show up if you hover over the person. Yeah, no, I still get. I go to channel, report, put user and timeout out, hide user on this channel, add a moderator. Yeah, but what do you get, Roy, when you click the picture?
Go back to that 3 dot thing. There's one, he's popped up again. No, when the 3 dot thing where it says to hover over the...
Okay, how do I do that?
You just did it a second ago.
Hover, what? Okay, where are the 3 dots?
It came up over here.
I'm hovering. You know, there were 3 dots that came up there.
Well, I did a minute ago when you had it up there. It was...
Okay, well, I've hit them anyways. So I guess we won't see them. I don't. We'll hope. Okay, let's not dwell on the troll. Okay. I get go to channel report block when I touch the avatar. Yeah, that's what I get. I don't get block.
Yeah, you do on when it's somebody viewing it, but not you're the moderator or whatever.
Oh, so that's why I'm not getting it.
Yeah, you're the one that's instituted this feed.
Oh, okay. Well, that's dumb.
Yeah,
I
know.
should be as the.
Yeah, but you may have to read up on that because you've never had to do that till now.
I guess not. Okay. Okay, so we think we figured out that I don't get that because it's my channel, but it's for anybody that's viewing can do it. So everybody, you're all moderators. If one of these goofballs shows up again, block them, please, because I don't seem to be able to do
But I
such a
think it
thing.
only blocks off your individual feed.
Oh,
It
well,
doesn't block off everything.
I've hidden them now.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens. All right, that's taking us off. So, okay. Update on teacher strike. Laura N is a teacher. Laura, what can you tell us about the teacher strike right now from your point of view as a teacher? Yeah, I know that, Carol, that I can. But, whatever. We'll just leave it for now and see, and, I'll try to keep hiding him if he comes back up again. So, okay, so Laura, what's going on? This is for Laura Ann. Laura Ann and I worked together when I was teaching. And so she's in the thick of all of this right now with the teacher situation. So we know what the news has told us about it. And it's the same old story. The government, of course, is being completely unreasonable and think they're going to break the teachers union. Well, I can tell this government that that's not going to happen in 1,000 years. And right now, from what I can tell, the teachers still have the support of the public, which they should have with this because it's only right. And the teachers are not fighting for money, which is what the government is trying to make everything sound like. And by the way, this discussion I'm having right now is going to lead into our main discussion today about different types of schooling. The whole issue really is, at least from the way I interpret it, is class sizes, which has always been an issue every time a contract comes up, and the cutting for funding for support. So, Laura, what's the scoop? She didn't make it to the last strike date as I was on leave as I had knee surgery, but nothing to do with the 1%. Yeah, that's what I'm just saying. It has nothing to do with the 1% the government wants to cap or has capped public servants at. And all the teachers are asking for, as a negotiating item, is for a raise equal to the cost of living, which I think is about 2% or 1 point something or other. But the main issue is class sizes and underfunding or the cutting of funds for special needs students, which almost every student we have anymore in the school system anymore has special needs, all that kind of thing.
And the e-learning.
And the e-learning, yeah, Laura just said the
Mandatory
e-learning.
e-learning.
Okay, so from the class size is pretty obvious. And if it's not obvious to some of you, maybe some of you don't have children in the school system or it's different in wherever you live. But essentially, for years, we've had a cap on how many students there can be in a class. You've got one person, the teacher. If you've got 40 bloody little bodies in your class, there is no possible way, even at the high school level, in a 70-minute period, you can get around to every one of those students and spend some quality time helping them with whatever they're struggling with. I mean, that's just simple common sense to know that. Teachers are already...
Yeah, but okay, but what the public doesn't understand is that the cap right now on the cap was 22 kids per class, and they're saying that they
No problem, Jules.
want it to be 28 kids per class, but then they're giving supposedly the teachers a leeway of making it 25 kids per class, but that hasn't been set in stone yet.
But that's
part of the
an
negotiation.
average.
That's right.
And so if you got certain special classes, classes that are, usually have less students in them because they're very specialized types of classes, like some art classes, some music classes, that kind of stuff, then when they take an average, that means like an English class, which what both Laura and I taught, well, Laura teaches now and I was teaching. English is a mandatory credit. That means that, yeah, the average might be 25, but your English class might have 32 in it. Now, that's 32 essays every time you assign an essay or an assignment or a test that you have to mark. When do you think marking gets done? You don't get your marking done in class, especially as an English teacher with that kind of thing. It takes time. I used to average, for every essay that I marked, it usually averaged to 30 minutes of paper at the senior level to mark. And they didn't do just one paper in a semester. They usually did a minimum of 3 and very lengthy things.
This is Laura says, I have 28, she teaches
Yeah.
academics and still do not do a one-on-one time with a student. So I have to give up a lunch break to help students.
Yeah. And lunch breaks, at least in the schools that I was in, were not long because half of your lunch is usually taken up with supervision. So if a lunch period is 70 minutes long, 35 minutes of that is basically supervision. Your other 35 minutes is lunch. And I don't even think lunch was 70 minutes when at the school we were at. I forget how that worked out because we had a couple of lunches because we couldn't accommodate all the kids at once. So there you go. B&D says, large class size are really detrimental to learning, especially with younger ones. I had 38 with no classroom help. Yeah, exactly. And every one of these kids, a lot of them have a special report that is done saying what their learning style is and what their needs are to support them. And you're expected to make what are called accommodations and modifications for each kid based on their individual learning plan. Well, yeah. And teachers try their best to do that, but it doesn't work. And if you start making class sizes larger, also if you make class sizes larger, you reduce the number of teachers as well, because that's how they work their funding model as to how many teachers they will hire. So if you make bigger classes, that means fewer sections of that class. That means you have less teachers. So, yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer when you think about it like that, like as to how it's going to be detrimental to kids. Laura says, no, it's only 40 minutes now. Okay, even worse. And Laura, the other Laura says, Laura, that sounds so stressful. Then the work you do at home too to mark essays. Oh yeah. And Laura says she was just marking essays.
This morning.
Yeah, this morning.
Sunday.
Which is Sunday. Yeah. And Kathy says we got 30-minute lunch, but that included taking students to lunch and picking them up elementary. Yeah. So really you don't get lunch. You know, there's a lot of people out there still in this day and age who think teachers get coffee breaks because they hear they have a prep period. And they think, what do? Go all down the teacher's lounge smoking cigarettes and having a party?
Maybe that's because they watch The Simpsons too much.
Yeah. You know, I do remember a day in age when I first started teaching back in 1981. I do remember we had less supervision. We had more kids in the class, but we had less supervision. And there were teachers who did take a smoke break in those days. But that's 40 years ago, okay? And that's not how the education system works today, because the curriculum's become more demanding than it was then, and all kinds of other things that have had with that. Laura says, the other Laura, split grades still common. How many do they average per class? Yeah, split grades are still there, and there's not any reduction in the number. So you're essentially teaching 2 levels in one class. Let's bring back the old one-room schoolhouse. Weren't those good old days? Really? I don't think so. Bootsy says, B&D, I was assigned to classes grade 5 with 35 in New York City. It's just awful. Here on Long Island, where we have separate school tax, parents go crazy when there are large classes. And Chris says, hi, Chris. Teachers have to do so much work on their own time. And BD says, no smoke breaks in the 70s. No, well, I was being facetious about that. Okay, smoke breaks. No.
I think that was the Simpsons thing.
Mm-hmm. If you know what I mean, like the Simpsons, you know, the cartoon thing on TV, they sometimes show the teacher's lounge and they're all in there smoking away the whole bit. Yeah, no, that's not true. The other thing that Laura mentioned too is the e-learning. And I did e-learning for 3 years from home as I was seconded to do that. And I can tell you this, the success rate for students on e-learning, I would have 150 kids and teach 4 classes online. I was never away from my computer. First thing in the morning, right through the last thing at night, weekends included, holidays. I even did work on Christmas Day with it. It never ended.
Uh-oh, we may have frozen.
And No.
Okay, no, okay, we're okay now.
Oh, okay. Um, and it takes a special kind of person to be able to do e-learning. It's self-discipline. I would lose within halfway through the semester, I would lose 50% of the students because they just couldn't keep up and they didn't do the work and they left everything last minute and it was impossible for them to do it. And this government has no clue. I think this government thinks, or at least some of the public thinks, oh, yeah, well, kids are going to have to use computers when they get out into the real world. That's not teaching them to use computers in the real world. And guess what? Kids already know how to use computers. They've had a tablet stuck in their hand the day they came out of the womb. They know how to use the computer technology. Maybe not completely effectively, but nevertheless, it's not something new to them. E-learning is just another way this government wants to cut down on the number of teachers that it hires, and it has to pay for. Because one supervisor, and I say supervisor, they're not necessarily a teacher. They're someone sitting at home in front of a computer screen or in an office somewhere, and they're dealing with the kids. They're not teaching them. The curriculum's already written up and done. It's sort of like doing an online multiple choice test in many ways. It's not teaching the kids anything. And they don't even have someone they can go to if they don't understand something. They have to send an email, and who knows, depending on who the person is at the other end and how many people they're dealing with, and they'll be dealing with a lot more than 25 kids in a classroom, they may or may not ever get back to the kid or get back to the kid in a timely fashion. So e-learning sounds wonderful, but it's not.
I mean, I've had to take, there's Mike, I don't know who that is.
I don't know. That's this guy saying got the same.
I don't know if that's the same one.
I don't know. I'm going to remove him. That's fine. Message deleted. Hide user on this channel. Laura says Ford wants to hire businesses for these kids instead of a teacher. Yeah, exactly. Well, you took courses, e-learning courses.
I did. I took industry courses over the years. I took ones on videotape and stuff like that. And they're deadly boring, but they're industry courses. And I just had to, because I had to learn a new skill or something like that. But you were in, Mike Saucy says, a big fan.
I don't know who you are.
So no, yeah. So I used to take them. They were deadly boring. Some of them I'd have to fall asleep through, but I didn't have to do a test or anything like that on them. I just was learning a new skill. But that was, it had the incentive that it had to be. It was part of my work, right? I had to do it. If you were doing it, and I can't see that a high school kid would necessarily have the discipline to have to
No.
do that. Like, I mean, it is, it's different if you have to do it for your work.
Yeah. Well, one person mentioned here, what about if they do it in class time? They've tried that in several schools. They have tried that. But they need to have a teacher to supervise that as well. So that's taking a teacher out of a classroom and putting them into something that's not really their curriculum. And these kids could be kids that all have, an e-learning class schedule, but they may be doing math, they may be doing something in English, they might be doing something in history, and they'll put one teacher in. Well, most teachers are only trained to teach 2 subjects, not them all. What?
I just realized what Mike.
Yeah, I saw.
Mike Hawkshort.
Oh, that's why I wanted you to say his name. And so you just did.
Yeah, I did.
You're an idiot. And Chris says, we did a lot of e-learning courses my last work. We had to keep
There's
up to
another
date.
one, too.
Okay. They want you to feed in on them. We had to keep up to date. Some people hated them and would get others to do them for them. Yeah, of course. There's all kinds of problems. Okay, did that work? Okay. Yeah. I swallow. Yeah, I know. Okay. Boy, it's fantastic today. E-learning has drawbacks within schools. As an adult, it's totally different. Primary teachers teach everything. Yeah. So, I mean, no. I mean, e-learning might work if you actually taught the kids, which means having a course in how to do e-learning. But that's not what these e-learning credits are doing. I mean, if they were to turn around and say, okay, and it doesn't mean I still agree with this, but if they turned around and they said, okay, we want the kids to do 2 credits in e-learning, and these 2 credits will teach them how to do e-learning in preparation for university and college courses. And if the curriculum was set out to teach them the strategies of how to do this, time management, all that kind of stuff, then maybe there might be potential there. But that's not what this government's doing. That's not their thought at all. The only reason they want 2 credits taught as e-learning is because that means they can get rid of some of the teaching staff. Is how it's all back to finances. Andy says, I developed e-learning. It's not appropriate for every topic. Also, there's a lot of e-learning crap out there. Yes, there is. And when I was seconded to teach e-learning for 3 years, I was also taught how to write the curriculum for e-learning, how to physically manipulate the software to deliver the curriculum, and I taught teachers from other boards how to do that and how to teach online as well. I had a very extensive background in e-learning, so I know that of which I speak, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it, and I couldn't wait to get back into a regular classroom again. I had other reasons for that too, but that was essentially it. But how would students take art and the stuff as e-learning? Yeah, how would they do music? See, e-learning isn't appropriate. How would they do drama? Even certain things in English you can't do by e-learning. So yeah, exactly. But then again, the government hasn't said they want to make it all e-learning.
No.
But it's a foot in the door for them to eventually turn teachers into supervisors, not using their teaching credentials. In other words, any idiot could supervise an e-learning course, and they would have to be paid a lot less than what a teacher would make. It's all finances.
Andy says the other problem is that a lot of e-learning is developed by people who have little or no knowledge of learning principles.
Yes, you're exactly right about that. I have a master's degree in education, and I specialized in curriculum development. That's one reason I got seconded for the job. I was trained to write curriculum.
Like a lot of the industry courses that I used to have to take while I was working were taught by people that really knew their subject but had no teaching skills. And it was just awful. Some of the courses were pretty deadly that I went to.
I'm not sure what your question means, AA Deluxe. Would a qualified teacher homeschooling a student be good, though? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Maybe you could clarify that. Laura says, but they won't even have teachers teach these e-learning courses. Exactly, because teachers are too expensive in their way of looking at things. So, yeah, Andy, that's what I have too. Same thing. In curriculum development, instructional design, I have the same thing. That's what my master's degree is in too. So, anyways, this takes us right into, and AA Deluxe has started the ball rolling here on what we're going to talk about is home private schooling versus public schooling. Rather than just talking about the teacher strike stuff, because we've talked about that as well. But going on, so AA Deluxe says, so if a teacher had qualifications, would teach in a school, but instead personally taught someone on a regular basis, like tutoring,
probably.
Is that effective? Well, I've had experience with doing what you're talking about. There have been some cases where kids can't come to a physical school because of an illness or some kind of physical disability or whatever that just doesn't let them get to school. So I have gone and done home, they call it home study, or they did when I did it. And it's a one-on-one. It's like having a tutor, but you teach the same curriculum as you teach in the regular school. And in my case, I taught kids English. And was it as effective? Well, that depended on the student. Because some of the ones that I got had psychological problems that kept them from going to school. And you can't teach them everything exactly in the same manner, of course, as you would teach a whole class. So although they benefit from the one-to-one instruction, again, it's sort of like e-learning. Is this student motivated? They have a lot of work they have to do on their own, because obviously I could not be with them for the same length of time as I would be if I was in a school or teachers. I mean,
I think what they're getting at is if you're talking about homeschooling or whatever, the average homeschooling thing, whether a non-qualified, is it different between a non-qualified teacher teaching homeschooling or a qualified teacher teaching?
So you mean the parent was a teacher?
Yeah.
Okay, if that's what you mean, well, let's talk about homeschooling. Okay, let's get this out on the table. I'll tell you what I think about homeschooling, and then we can go from there. Okay, you can jump in. Okay, why am I against homeschooling? I'll say it right up. One, people who are teaching their own kids are not usually people who have been trained to teach. Okay, teaching isn't just about the knowledge you have about a subject area. Okay, for example, I have a degree in English literature. 90% of what I learned during my degree is not applicable to a high school student. Okay, I'm not going to be teaching Old English and Middle English. I'm not going to be teaching Chaucer. I'm not going to be teaching, some of the lesser known Shakespearean plays. I am not going to be teaching them stuff like Jane Austen or Victorian literature or that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to be teaching them things like, higher level symbolism, stuff like that, because it was way beyond them. So what are my qualifications to teach? They came after my degree when I took my teaching degree. My teaching degree showed me how to deliver curriculum in an effective way, how to assess students' learning needs, learning styles, how to develop those into a program that would lead them to success with it, how to teach them the fundamentals of things that they were going to need to survive in the real world, not how to analyze a Shakespearean play, although we did do some of that, but those are what we call transferable skills, because how many of the kids graduating from high school are actually going to walk into the world of work and need to know who Tybalt was in Romeo and Juliet? Not very many, okay? But we teach a curriculum whereby we teach them how to analyze something that's in writing and how to get the meaning out of it and to respond to it. That is a skill that everybody needs to know how to do in whatever kind of job they're doing, okay? So, homeschooler, a parent, doesn't have that training, how to do that. They can get courses that come from Ministry of Education and things like that. They can get a curriculum, but do they know how to analyze the curriculum and how to structure it so it's appropriate for their child? I don't think so. Now, the question is, so if you were a teacher and you decided to homeschool, would you be better than the one that doesn't? No, I don't think so. Because I think it would depend on how much experience in an actual physical classroom that person has had, for one thing. Two, you're going to have a certain bias in your curriculum that you teach to your kid. There's a reason why people
That's what Laura was saying.
Yeah. Okay, I'll come
Okay,
to
go
that. Uh, now you threw me right
Okay, go
off
ahead, sorry.
for it. Yeah. What was I going to say about it?
About, you were saying about like people that are,
Thank you.
all right.
Yeah, I had a point. Okay, let's see what Laura said. Laura says you also need emotional separation. That's what I was trying to get at. You're too personally connected with your clientele as a parent. So what you take out of the curriculum and you teach from your biased. A teacher in a classroom, although you can't ever eliminate bias completely, teacher in a classroom is more aware of the fact that there's going to be different cultural, kids are going to bring different stuff to the plate, okay? And you have to work with all of that. So for example, a lot of homeschoolers, especially in the States, well, that's where you hear about it. It probably happens in Canada too. They homeschool for religious reasons. They don't like what the school system is teaching when it comes to their personal beliefs about their religious beliefs and things like that. So they're protecting their children from the horrible, sinful, evil, hedonistic stuff that a teacher might teach them in school. And so that's why they homeschool in a lot of cases. Okay? So to go back to the question is, if someone's qualified teacher, would they do a better job? I think they might do a better job, but I don't necessarily think it's the best job. And so I don't agree with homeschooling.
Well, see, from my perspective, is delivery in a classroom is not necessarily is probably better because you always have you are also surrounded in an environment of other people and other
The social
lose that
aspect.
social aspect of being in an environment with other people that are different than you and stuff like that.
Well, I'll give you an example. There's a friend of mine that I taught with. Her child has basically, as far as I know, has been primarily homeschooled for most of her, at least her high school years. Now, her child has some medical issues and things like that, which have contributed to her not being in a regular classroom environment. This person, this child is, an adult now, very intelligent individual, highly creative and the whole bit. But from what I know, and I don't know well enough, okay, seems to me is lacking in some of the social skills, i.e. friends.
And plus, she also has a job where she basically works from home.
Like, she's not stupid. She's extremely intelligent, extremely creative. But the aspect of the social development, I think that has been stunted.
She has
Because,
no social skills.
because she hasn't been out amongst other people, for whatever reason, okay? And as I said, I think there's some health issues there. I don't know enough about it to say more than that. But just to apply that to other kids, well, yeah, the social aspect is part of your education. You got to learn how to cope with other people. And if you're cooped out at home with the only people you see most of the time are your parents, or now I know when I was a docent at the art gallery, an educator at the art gallery, we had a group of kids that were all homeschool kids that would come in every so many weeks for a program that the art gallery put on for them, and they'd come with their parents. So these kids all knew each other in a sense because they had these kind of enrichment opportunities. That's what they called them. But I'd listen to these kids, and I thought it was sad. They were spoiled. They didn't know how to play well with others because they weren't used to social contact. They were filled with a sense that they were superior. And I listened to the parents that were there. And the parents had a very superior attitude too. And I'm thinking, this is not going to win you a lot of friends and influence your enemies when you do have to get out in the real world. So I think homeschooling does a lot of damage to kids. Want an example in politics? one of the assistant MPPs to the Education Ministry of Education, is 22 years old, was homeschooled, and he's an idiot
For religious reasons.
for religious reasons. He was
and
homeschooled.
he has a lot of social biases.
Oh yeah, and his social biases are based on a minimal amount of information, and that's the other thing. You can only get so much information from the internet, and how do they know what they're getting off the internet? How do they discern what is reasonable? How do their critical thinking skills? I don't know. So what are people saying here? Because there's a lot of conversation on here as I blabbed on.
You did Nora N was the last
Yeah.
one. And then
Okay,
there's
Chris.
inviting thoughts.
My daughter hates homeschooling. She gets a lot of homeschool kids in her year 7 classes. Parents decide to send them to normal school for high school. Yeah, and those kids, I've seen those kids before, and they have a lot of problems socially in the school system. Kathy says, even as a teacher, I wouldn't homeschool my own children. The relationship's totally different. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, obviously, they're your children. So, yeah, the dynamics are going to be different. Chris says the poor kids end up not knowing how to socialize with other kids, and she then has to deal with a lot of behavioral issues. Yes, and those poor kids too get bullied as well, or are more susceptible to being shunned or bullied because they're weird.
And they haven't had to cope with real life.
Yeah. And Chris also says parents also have a different interpretation of what learning is, more important, and kids get a biased education. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I had someone tell me this one time. Okay, so if you're homeschooling your kids, you feel you can do a better job than the teacher. Do you also do your own surgery? Home doctoring? Think about it. Do you look after your own teeth? If you've got a cavity, do you do the filling as well? For your kids? Or wouldn't it be better to send them to a doctor and to a dentist, to professionals who know what they're doing? Because teachers are professionals. Contrary, that's the word I want. Contrary to what our provincial government thinks and how they treat teachers. Teachers are professionals. A lot of training there. They're just as professional as a doctor, as a dentist, as a lawyer. Okay? Same. All the same. Professionals. And Laura says parents also worry about the bullying, but we all were bullied. We need to go through it to learn how to effectively deal with the difficult personalities. True. I mean, let's just make bullying a little less specific and just talk about coping skills, because you meet a lot of different people in your life, and where do you learn? You learn your socialization, really at school, at both the elementary and high school level. I mean, that's where it comes from. It doesn't come from your parents as much. Yeah, your parents tell you to be polite, say please, thank you, this kind of thing, and the whole bit. But really, that's a safe environment to learn those things. Going into school, not as safe, but you learn to cope.
You learn about different kids and different lifestyles and different cultures. I mean, not so much when I was growing up. It was a very white type environment or whatever. But my dad worked at one factory, another dad worked at a different factory, and I mean, the kids were all different. They were from different socioeconomic profiles, and you ended up beginning to become more knowledgeable about the world as time went on, type of thing.
Yeah. Now, Laura's made a good point here. And with the reliance on electronic devices today, kids are less socially connected. So homeschooling, I think, would increase that. Yeah, right. Isolation. Isn't that the thing that people are complaining about with video games, that kids don't get outside and play anymore? That all they do is they're glued in front of a video screen playing their games. And some people argue they are being social because those games now go live and they have other people and they can talk to them as they play their games. But they're not talking about
face-to-face interaction.
No, they're not doing face-to-face interaction. And they're also, those games are very specialized, and they're talking about, well, in many cases, violent things like who you're going to blow up, what submachine gun you can get because you did this and this in the game. That's not socializing. And look at the kids with their cell phones. All right? They're constantly buried in their texting. In fact, a cell phone has the ability to pick it up and talk to somebody at least. They don't even do that. It's texting. It's, it's all texting. In fact, kids go online in something like Facebook. Oh, the kids don't use Facebook like we do anymore. But they don't even necessarily see the people. Mm-hmm. They're talking to, well, look at the trolls that come on here today. They're safe because they hide behind being anonymous. There's no accountability for what you write because you are faceless, and the people you are writing about or to are faceless as well. There's no real face-to-face social interaction, and kids need that. What else are people saying here? Kat says, I think many times the homeschooling schedule is so loose that students don't really get a complete education.
Well, not only that, you don't end up having the discipline of, like, when you go to school, It starts at 9 o'clock, it ends at this time, you have periods and all this other stuff. And that ends up becoming part of your thing in work life, too, because of working in an office.
Yeah.
You got to be at work at a certain time. You got to, you have to go to a meeting. You have to be at a certain time everywhere. I mean, it's a scheduling thing.
Well, what's the consequences for a kid being homeschooled if they don't get an assignment done for mom on time? What are the consequences? Well, I'm sure what mom does is go, okay, well, we'll work on that tonight then, or we'll do that. I mean, kids have to learn that life is not fair, that it's not going to be a breeze. If you've got a deadline at work and your boss says, I need this on my desk Monday morning, and you decide, nah, I'm not going to do it over the weekend, I'm not going to worry about that, it's okay, and the boss says you're fired. What are you going to do then? It's part of your job requirements. So they're not training kids for the real world out there, at least in a school system with deadlines. And although sometimes those can be somewhat flexible too, there's still a deadline. There are still consequences, which are probably more severe than what their consequences are their parents will put on them. Maybe not in all cases, but I mean, really, if I had a kid and I'm homeschooling them and the kid didn't get it done, I'd go, well, the earth isn't going to stop spinning because of that. Okay, we'll get on with it tomorrow. Okay, let's concentrate on this and do it tomorrow. And all the kid is learning from that is there are loopholes. There are always loopholes. There's always extensions. Not always. B and D says, I've been very concerned about homeschooling. I see the USA, it seems really haphazard, unstructured, no one outside contact on a regular basis. In the UK, it is homeschooling is more constrained and controlled, but I'm still not in favor. Yeah, and I don't know how much you can constrain it. Really. What can the government do? Are there going to be police coming on your doorstep and checking all the time? I don't think so. Chris says, my daughter completed a degree in science and then her master's of teaching to become a teacher. So she has a double degree. It took her 6 years. Yeah. And what I get the sense is not a complete thought yet. I'm not, okay, what are you saying then, Chris, with that? I'm not really understanding.
I think she's trying to say that her daughter is very well educated.
Yeah. Yeah, she went through the system. Laura says, my provincial government was a drug dealer in high school and was expelled. He had to get his GED and went to business college. Yeah, we know that. He's an asshole. And the education minister went to private school. Neither one of them went to high school. Yeah, exactly.
And he's single and he doesn't have any children.
Yeah, and there's also rumors that he's gay. Not that that means anything, but what I'm putting out there, and that's a topic for another day, basically that he's not being honest with people. He's in the closet. I have a problem with that, but that's something to be talked about. Down the road, not today. Let's see what I missed. A young person told me, Andy says, they would rather text than talk on the phone. She told me if she asked her friend how she was doing, she would have to sit and listen. Wow. Yeah, listening skills and attention spans, both are lacking with young people today. I can tell you that. Jody says, that's very sad. Sounds like a friend simply isn't worth it. Yes, teachers are very qualified. You are darn right. You know, there are people who go into education, they don't last long, but people who go into education thinking that all you do is stand up in front of a room full of kids who are going to be all hanging on every word you say, and you're going to fill them with all the knowledge you have. Oh, if it was only that easy. Yeah, no, it's not. Laura says there are no regulations for homeschooling in Ontario. The parent doesn't have to have lesson plans vetted. Yeah, exactly. And Bonnie says, a student in Quebec in 68, we had to pass provincial exams. Maybe that is what should happen to students taught at home. Yeah. But then you got the whole thing about standardized testing and teaching to the test and all that issue, and we deal with that in Ontario already. With the what do they call it? EQ. I've been out of education for a while. For English and for mathematics and stuff, they have standardized tests for that kind of stuff. And well, that's another topic for another day too, about the effectiveness of that. So basically, my point is on homeschooling is no. So let's move to private schooling, since it was already brought up.
I think homeschooling is maybe only in extreme cases where you'd have to do it.
Well, I would say in extreme cases, your family has been are on a deserted island or on an iceberg in the middle of the Arctic Ocean, can't get anywhere else, and it's the only way you're going to be able to teach your kids. That to me would be extreme case with it. Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about private schooling. Oh, I hate private schools. Actually, between homeschooling and private schooling, I think homeschooling, and I don't like homeschooling, as you know, I think private schooling is worse than homeschooling. Why do I say that? Because you buy your kids' education for them. I mean, first of all, you're paying for your kid to be there. Therefore, you can pull the strings. You can go in and you're not happy with a teacher. You go in and you say your complaint, and they correct it because they don't want to lose your thousands and thousands of dollars, because it's a business. I had a friend once who moved from the public education system to the private education system. He absolutely hated it because he said he got paid less, had to work more hours, and the hours he was working is he had to run all these extracurriculars that had very little to, in fact, all the kids were enrolled in all kinds of extracurriculars, and the extracurriculars took precedent over the academics. More so than they do with the football team in a high school. But, and so he was expected to jump. If a parent came in and complained or wanted something, he had to do it, because he was paid to do that kind of stuff. That was his job.
And he couldn't give the kids poor marks because he's paid, the parents are paying for it.
And if he wanted to keep his job, he had to do whatever the parents wanted to do by way of the principal, because the principal would come in and tell him, okay, Johnny needs an A this semester. Help him out to get that, which really was saying you will give him an A no matter what, because the parents have come in, and if you don't, they're going to pull him out of this school, and we're going to lose $20,000 this year because of that. Simple. So let's see. Yeah, Kathy says, or if there's like medical reasons. Yeah, but if there's medical reasons, then there's things built into the education system that can help that kid. Okay? Like teachers who go in and teach the curriculum to them. That's why I got hired to be I only did it a couple of times, couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand doing homeschooling. The reason to go in and do this kind of with a home study, because one, the environment was foreign to me. It wasn't my environment. It was not conducive to educating a kid, and the parent kept interrupting all the time. Like, interrupt. Would you like something to drink? Oh, here's a plate of cookies. And I was kind of, look, I'm trying to work here. Okay, thank you very much for being kind and offering me this kind of stuff, but I am being paid for this and I am trying to help your daughter, get back on her feet, educationally speaking. Or if they have autism, the autism funding has been cut. Yep. So there goes the whole special ed. Chris says, I'm not a fan of private schooling, although the schooling was so bad in one area we lived in that I sent my daughter to private school for 1 year. It cost us a bomb. Yep. Laura says, it's all been cut. There are no funding for autism or spec ed. Yep. And does anyone know how a Montessori school works? It's private, isn't it? Okay, here's what I know about Montessori, and yes, it is private, and you pay for it. Montessori is a philosophy of education. It's what I understand of it, and if somebody else out there knows it more than I do, great, chip in here. From my understanding of it, it's discovery learning, or learning by play for the really young kids. For example, you have a whole bunch of building blocks, and you say to the child, who might be 3, 4 years old, you go play. It's creative play. Now, you build something. You make something, and we'll talk about it. Okay, so kid puts up a bunch of blocks and says, what is that? And what's that represent to you? And you build a dialogue, an educational moment, I guess, and I say that in quotation marks, air quotes, to allow the child to bring forth the knowledge they already have within themselves. It's the idea that no one is a blank slate. We're already born with with already certain knowledge in ourselves. We need to have it blossom, have it come out. And the way to make it come out is through creative play and things like that. That's how I understand that philosophy of education. I don't know if I've got it right, but someone can correct me who knows more. Kathy says, Montessori school, where my granddaughter goes, is a charter school and falls under a public school system.
That must be in the U.S.
That's the U.S. term for it. I have a feeling Montessori can mean many things.
I suppose maybe it wouldn't be too bad for a really young kid. I mean, depending on...
Well, go into Google and just type up Montessori and see what the definition of it is. Kathy says, I don't think Montessori is good for every student, including my granddaughter, but I wasn't asked. Yeah, well, I think that's true. Andy says, Montessori method is actually quite structured from the standpoint that different activities support the same learning goal. Okay. Chris says, it's great for preschool and for very younger years. Yeah, that's what I would think. That it's probably good for,
I mean, now
kindergarten.
Nowadays, when I was a little kid, we used to go play on the street when we were a young kid, right? And nowadays, kids seem to be sequestered at home or in, daycare system or something. So maybe Montessori is sort of like a step before kindergarten type thing.
Maybe. Yeah, Laura, it does sound very philosophical. And I'll be honest, I don't know enough about it. I think when I was in teachers college, they talked about Montessori method, and maybe the method or the purity of the philosophy is probably very different from what actually it's done. As who was it? Kathy said that, or was it Kathy, or it was Andy who said that it's a structure, more structured and based on activities, an activity-based learning. But they do that now in kindergarten. They have activity-based learning. In fact, even at the high school level, we don't call it activity-based, but it's somewhat like that. It's not rote learning. It's not the teacher fills the blackboard full of notes, you copy down your notes, and then you'll be tested on it, and strict memorization. We don't do that in the school system. Haven't done that in the school system since probably the 1950s. That kind of education. So maybe Montessori is not quite that far away from the philosophy of what education is today.
Well, it says here, it's teaching to individuals instead of to groups. Children learn through practicing tasks. The Montessori curriculum is much broader than many other programs. Montessori programs emphasize on self-discipline. The materials of the Montessori classroom are carefully designed. Montessori teachers are trained to respect and positive values. The Montessori method is done in a positive manner, and the routine of the Montessori program is well arranged and based on principle of freedom.
Okay, guess what? You just read what today's modern education is in a public school system.
Oh,
Most of that stuff applies as well, at least philosophically.
and
And
there's something else that says individualized, enticing, based on nature and freedom.
yeah, well, nature and freedom are very airy-fairy terms too. You can
Yeah.
define those in whatever way.
I mean, it depends. I guess it depends on whatever their each
Yeah.
individual one is.
Yeah, Laura says, and now the way we do things in education. It wasn't always that way. But you know what I think Montessori also is? It's a money grab. I think there's a whole lot of tree-hugging parents out there that go for Montessori because they think that's a superior education to the public education has a bad rap, which I don't understand why. At least in our province, our education system in the province and in Canada in general is a very good system.
Well, some parents figure that if they pay for it, they're going to get a better.
Well, okay,
Education.
so go back to the private school and at the high school level. Why do parents send their kids to private school and spend all that money? Is it because they think it's getting a higher quality education? No, it's networking. If they can get their kids to hobnob it with the rich and the famous kids that come from the rich families or the movers and the shakers in the world, that they will make friends there and this will get them ahead in life. So take, for example, your colleague at work, Amy, and her son. Let's hear about that story, how that worked out.
Well, she sent her son to an exclusive school at high school level in Toronto, which was a very expensive, exclusive school for where the rich kids all went to. And she figured that her son would be networking with all these rich kids and everything else. And he went there for all his high school years. They paid it was quite a lot of money. I think they spent about $30,000 a year to send him there.
Yeah.
And at the time, and we're talking 15 years, well over 15 years ago. And it could have been more than that, I don't know. Anyway, so he went to university and he never managed to get a university degree because he kept flunking out of all of his courses. And he never ended up networking or keeping any of the networks to the kids that he went to school with in high school. And so now he's got a job selling insurance.
Yeah. So there you go. You know, like that's the rich get richer, the poor get poorer.
Whereas her daughter, she said she gave her daughter the opportunity to go to private school, but her daughter said no, she didn't want to go. So she just stayed in regular high school. She got her degree in nursing. She's a nurse now, and she's very happy and has a good job right now. So
Yeah. So there you go. So basically, private schools are business institutions.
And I know when her son was going to high school, he didn't supposedly make the football team in private school. So they went there and said, we're paying his tuition. He needs a spot in. They wanted him to play football. So he needs a spot in the football team. And yeah, he had a spot in the football team.
Because they put money behind it a whole bit. So there you go. So kids who go through a private school education have no clue what the real people are like in life. You know, so in some ways their socialization or their social development is somewhat stunted or unrealistic in the way that it happens. Now, if it happens to be that daddy or mommy own a huge corporation, that kid will probably never know what it was like what disadvantages they may have had being in a private school, because they'll have all the advantages thrown at them because they've got money.
Yeah, I
Simple
know.
as that.
So the lady that I went to work with, she just had a regular job, and her husband had a decent job. And the kid went to private school, and they spent a lot of money doing it, but he's still from a middle-class family. And so it wasn't like they owned a big corporation that they could just give him a job or anything like that. So he still had to go out and find his own job.
Yeah. So it gives kids a very unrealistic view of the world, really. Andy says in New York there are specialized public schools, arts, math, and sciences. Kids and parents have to be interviewed and the kids have to pass tests. Well, we have those here too. We have schools for the performing arts and things like that as well, but they're under the public education umbrella, and the parents don't have to pay any more money to get them into those schools. They're schools that are basically honing in on skills that certain students have. Like we used to have vocational schools in Ontario where kids who academically, they weren't doing well in English and the maths and that, but boy, they could fix a car, or they could go into cosmetology, or they could go into culinary arts or something like that. And the government decided in their great wisdom to get rid of all those kind of schools. And then those are a lot of the kids who drop out because they have no interest in the academics. Yet, if they'd gone to vocational school, they would have learned a trade. They could have gone into an apprenticeship program when they got out. And today they probably would have been happier and have a successful career. But the government decided, no, we don't want that, because that's costing us money to have those schools. Chris says, here in Australia, private schools receive a lot more government funding than public schools. Whoa, it's horrible to see the public school system work on less and less each year. Now, I have no idea how much funding our government would give to private schools, but I would like to think that because our government is so bloody cheap anyways in public education, that they don't have any money left over to give to a private school. I don't know. I don't know how that works. Never hear about that. That's interesting.
No, that's interesting, yeah.
Chris says, yes, we have some specialized schools in some states in Australia. And Laura says they have to audition or test to get in. Yeah, Laura North says that. Yeah, to get into those performing arts schools. Yeah, because it's a specialized school. So, yeah, and that makes sense. They need to audition if it's for, like, performing arts. If you're going in and you're doing dance, you got to be able to have some ability to dance for that. That would make sense. And Bootsy says, no matter what country or culture, there will always be at least a 2-tier, if not a 3-tier education system. What is sad is that the 2 upper tiers leave the poor kids with a substandard system. Yeah, well, okay, maybe in the States. We do not have a substandard system in the public education here in Ontario.
Not yet, anyway.
No, but that's what the government wants to make it into. Yeah. But no, we have right now, until the government screws around with it anymore, we have a very, very, in fact, countries from around the world come to our school system to study it. Australians do, and in turn, we actually go to Australia to study their education system because Australia has a really progressive education system
because we basically have one public system, and then the other options is homeschooling and private
school.
But there is no different levels of public system here.
No. So we don't have charter schools, for example. Which what I understand of charter schools that they have many in the States, they depend on, funding is based upon the level, whatever the kids achieve. Like, so teachers have to teach to the test. Teachers' jobs depend upon
I thought charter
how much
schools
funding.
had something to do with the area that they lived in and how much property taxes that people paid.
Yeah, that was something to do with money somehow
Yeah.
with it. So I don't understand, but we don't have charter schools here.
Yeah, if you're in a public system here in Ontario, the public system is the same for in all of Ontario.
Yeah. Chris says it's all about buying votes without actually buying votes. And Kathy says even religious schools get funding for transportation and school districts to which the student would go. I don't think they get any funding here. We do have religious schools, but usually they are after regular public school hours. They're not in place of public school.
I mean, the only difference is that our Catholic system is publicly funded in Ontario.
Yeah. which I don't agree with at
No,
all.
that happened 2 years ago.
But that was because that was way back in the 70s. We had a premier whose legacy was to create a split the system between Catholic and everybody else, which was a mistake. A mistake. Laura says we have two public Catholic, which are both funded by government taxes. Yeah. Bootsy says the U.S. is very segregated, either by race or economics. The poorest prepared teachers in the public schools are assigned to the poorest performing poorer neighborhoods, generally speaking. So, which basically is a self-fulfilling philosophy of where, you give the worst, and it just creates the worst out of it. Chris says there's a great school in town over from where they specialize in apprenticeships and job placements. Kids get to do year 11 and 12 as part of an apprenticeship and they go straight into employment. And for a lot of kids, that's a great thing because that gives them something. It gives them a sense of success, or not a sense, but it makes them successful. If they go through the regular school system and those talents aren't recognized that they fall out, they drop out, they get nothing from that kind of thing. So yeah, but that's why I said when Ontario got rid of vocational schools, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
That was a major mistake with it, and we are seeing the consequences of that now in our system. I mean, we have kids, I've taught kids who don't want to be there at school. They're wasted. They drop out. They end up getting involved in things they shouldn't be involved in, and the whole bit. And that's not good for society. Period.
Yeah, like I had a boss who was a math. He had a math degree, and his son really didn't do well in any of the academics, and but he suddenly got an interest in doing electrical work, and ended up becoming an electrician. And it's not academic, but he has a really good trade now and makes lots of money and everything else because he's a certified electrician, and he's since become an HVAC specialist for installing furnaces and everything else. So he's very and meanwhile, my old boss has always been happy that his son is doing so well.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I remember when he was in school, he was so worried that he wasn't doing well academically.
Yeah. Now, here's one of the flaws in the public education then. Just to be fair, it's not perfect. I still support the public education system. How could I not? Since I come from it. But also, I do believe in it. But one of the flaws in our public education system is that exactly. We tend to direct our students to higher education beyond high school, and that's not appropriate for every kid.
No.
So it sets up some kids for failure, and there is no option for them. So where are they going to go? What are they going to do when they finally get out of high school, if they get out of high school? We do have facilities within our own board to help those kids who were dropouts. But I've seen how that works. They are kids who dropped out at grade 10, at 16. Now they went for a few years. A lot of them have problems, social problems, mental problems now because they weren't able to get into a field that they enjoy. Drug problems, the whole bit. They come back to school. They have a watered down curriculum for them to at least give them a chance to get their high school education. They do it in small modules of about 6-week components, and even then, a lot of them don't last. And I don't know if that is a good thing to have. At least it's an opportunity, I guess. We're offering them something to help them. But we shouldn't have to offer that if we'd already offered that kind of thing when they were going through regular high school. Mm-hmm. Then there wouldn't be a need for those kind of schools because we've already covered that need for them then. But no, that costs money. So as far as the government's concerned, no. And our premier's kids go to private school or did go to private school. I'm not sure if they're still in school or not. I don't know with that. Laura says they can't get a driver's license if they drop out now. Whoa, I didn't know that. That's interesting. And Annie says, my youngest son didn't want to go to college right away. I told him I'd rather he wait until he was ready rather than go right away and waste money. Well, that's a topic a little bit for another day. But yeah, since they got rid of here in Ontario grade 13 and OAC, which replaced grade 13, and they graduate at grade 12, they're 17 years old, and then they walk into university or college. And I'm sorry, but there's a vast difference between a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old. And you wouldn't think there would be in 1 year difference, but there is, because they're teenagers. And I think they're too young to be plunged into university or college at 17. However, having said that, the universities know this too, and they've dumbed down their curriculum to accommodate those kids. And why did they dumb down the curriculum to accommodate 17-year-olds as opposed to 18? Because it's money. Because universities are a form of private schooling. They are not funded by the government. So you got to pay for it, and that they run it like a business. So they dumb it down. They deadlines for things are fluent now, are flexible. They have stupid courses they can take online. I was just talking to a lady today when I was at my sewing class. Her son is in first year at a local college, and she was talking about his e-learning courses he takes. One was called Rock and Roll and featured Snoop Dogg, and another one was called The Life of a Frog. He wants to go into automotive
mechanics.
Yeah, okay. Automotive mechanics. Yeah, whatever. Boy, trying to get these terms out. Difficult today. Anyways, yeah, and so these courses seem pointless, but I'm not even, she doesn't understand, the one I'm talking to, why he has to take these, what they were going to do with, what they have to do with what he's going to be trained in. I don't know either. Only thing I could suggest is that it's a way to keep them there longer. Maybe. Means more money for the institution. I don't know.
Laura says you can't generally drop out until they're 18 now. So I guess you can't get a driver's license until you're 18.
Oh, okay.
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing, yeah. A gap year can do wonders with some kids, but can also derail others. Yeah. True. I've always said, okay, this would be radical because it would never happen. But I really think after grade 8, kids have to go out and have a job for a year before they can get into high school. Because I think they would mature very quickly. They have to be a busboy, they have to wash dishes, something menial. Because when they come into high school, many of them have this attitude that this is all going to be fun and games. And it takes a while to train them that it's not going to be. And some of them you never train for that. So I kind of think, hey, when you're 13 years old, 14 years old, you have to work for a year. And then you can come and continue on with your education. But that would be radical, and no one would ever agree with me on that. There was a lot of public trade high schools in New York when I was a kid. It became so expensive and sometimes so obsolete they did away with them. Such a shame. Yep, exactly. Well, that's why they got rid of them here too. It was the money. Andy says they also dumb it down because of the caliber of academic skills of the younger generation. Yeah, that's true. And it doesn't mean that the public school system has dropped its standards. It just means that they don't care enough anymore. They're so immature. I mean, they're kids. Yes, they're kids. We expect them to be immature. But I swear that as through my career, I saw these kids become more immature as the years went by in comparison to when I first started teaching. And that's a discussion for another day, but I think a lot of it is that this generation, or these kids that are coming through now, they have everything. They haven't had to really work, a lot of them, to get what they want because the parents have given it to them. And they've gotten away with basically murder. And then when it comes down to buckling down, and as a teacher, you try to instill upon them that, you got to work hard to achieve your goals and things like that. No, you don't. No, you don't. Mommy and daddy will buy it for me. Whatever. So, but we've talked about helicopter parents and things in the past, and that's maybe another topic for another day. And Chris says, yeah, the automotive industry is different and everything. Yeah. In some countries, you take your car to a brake person for brake service, people for general service, tire place for tires, suspension place for suspension, and different people trained for each of these. In Australia, mechanic apprenticeship, they are trained to do it all. They can then choose to work or specialize or work or general mechanic and still be able to do it all. Yeah. So, and you got kids that may have that attitude, like that aptitude for it, then let them do that. Why not? But also parents in the public education system, they want their kids to go to a university. They want them to become a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. They want them in the professions and the whole bit. Even if the kid does not have an aptitude for it, even if the kid doesn't want to do that. But that's what they want because they want bragging rights. And so they put pressure onto the public school system to get them through so they will do that. And that's when you have a lot of conflict between teachers and parents. You get parents like that and teachers like me who go, no, they need to earn the marks in here. No, I am not going to just give them an A because they handed something in. There are certain standards that have to be met to get that A.
Lots of parents seem to want all their kids to be in a gifted program because
they're all special. They're all special, aren't they? So that takes you back to homeschooling. My child is absolutely brilliant and special. And, I hear this from the ladies that I'm in sewing classes with. They talk about their kids and they'll say, well, I shouldn't really, it sounds like I'm bragging, but my son really was gifted. He was a genius. Your kid is special to you, of course, because they're your kid. But let's be real. If everybody was a genius, I don't know if we'd have a better world or not, but not everybody's a genius, okay? Laura says, I'm actually surprised by general knowledge level of kids graduating today. Their vocabulary is poor, knowledge of past events, thinking things. Africa is a country, not a continent. Yeah. And Laura says, well, now if a parent complains now, they get that grade. That's sad. That's sad. So many kids dropping out of uni because it's not what they want to do, and they are stuck as they no longer know what they want to do because what they want to do has been pushed away from them. Yep, all of that. So anyways, we've covered the gamut. It's our time now. It's been an interesting discussion. And so, food for thought. What can we do to correct the situation? Have no idea, except one idea I have for those of you that live in Ontario, Canada. Support the teachers that are on striking because they are striking for the children of today so they will become good citizens tomorrow and be able to support all of us in our old age as well. But the teachers get a raw deal. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a teacher. Well, yes, I am. But I'm saying it because I know how much a teacher does. And I think a lot of parents appreciate how much effort teachers do as well. And so far, the parents are supporting the teachers. We got to knock out this government. We got to get rid of mini Trump from here. So fight the good fight for those of you that are still teaching in the system, and parents, support them, the educators, because they work hard to help your kid. There's always a few bad apples, but most of them are not. Usually they get weeded out very quickly in the profession. Killer says, thanks. And yes, parents and students bring us coffee and snacks. Okay. And that's still showing support, and that keeps up the teachers' morale, because I have been on the picket lines in my career as well. And there's nothing more degrading than walking outside of your school with a picket sign. That is very degrading, and it undercuts your morals, and you have to stick to your to what you believe is right. And that's what these teachers are doing. And it's not an easy road, and it's not all about money, at least not money for teachers. It's money for education, to give our kids the right to a good future. Because if they don't have a good future, we're not going to have a good future. Simple as that. Okay, so thanks for everybody coming in on this. It looks like we got rid of the trolls. I'll have to explore a little bit further how I can block them with my iPad, whether I'm doing it right or not. And thanks to those of you that tried to block them as well. So, next week's topic, I don't know. We're always open to suggestions, so you can email us and let us know what you think we should talk about. And everybody have a good what's rest of today, or in Australia, what's the rest of tomorrow. And we'll talk to everybody next week. So,
Yep. Goodbye.
have a good week. Bye, everybody.